What's cracking, y'all? You are now watching Boo TV. Appreciate you for stopping in. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, stay notified, and let's get into the topic for today. What's good? What's good? What's good? Back with another reaction video from, yes, Scap Attack. This one is called The Coward's Way, a complete history of the decision that ruined the NBA by none other than LeBron James and part of his banana boat crew. I'm pretty sure Bosh and Wade was part of that banana boat crew, right? Along with Carmelo Anthony and CP3, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, that's beside the point. One reason I like this Scap Attack channel is because it's all truthful. The editing is great, and they do a great job at adding comedy to 1000% factual information in a time where the major media outlets and even other YouTube channels who have a lot of exposure and have big buffers putting out this information to everybody, bad information they're putting out, information lacking context, misinformation, false narratives, and here you have Scap Attack who seems to be getting some pretty good views on his videos, which I'm happy, because a lot of people are seeing the truth. It's not about being a hater, it's about putting the truth out there. And when you have these major media outlets not doing that, not putting the truth out there, rolling around with the legenda when it comes to LeBron James, it's good that we have people that are giving these people pushback. No, we might not be on ESPN. No, we might not be on FSN, FS1 Sports, CBS Sports. We might not be there. But we find our avenues to give these guys pushback and let people know what the actual truths are. Because you got a lot of people coming into the NBA, coming into these media circles, and they don't know any better, and they're not going to do the research for themselves. So they just believe whatever these people say as the gospel. And if you say otherwise, they look at you like you're stupid because you are, on the outside. You're the minority. How many people are saying what you're saying? Everybody's saying LeBron's a GOAT. Everybody's saying he's better than this, better than that. Everybody's saying he's the greatest scorer ever. Everybody's saying he's the greatest passer to ever play the game. All this nonsense. And people look at you like you don't know basketball because you're going against the grain. I've had people tell me, "Oh man, you talking crazy. I used to respect your basketball opinion. I don't really think you know that much about basketball." Wow. For you to tell me that, and I'm not an ego guy, I don't care, but for you to tell me that tells me you don't know anything about basketball, sir. Sorry. You can roll with these major media pundits if you want to, but it ain't gonna be me. I saw it all happen. I'm applying the context. It's more than numbers. It's more than statistics. Anyway, this opening remarks was not supposed to go on this long. I apologize. One more thing to add on to that. Sorry, we're 4 minutes in and we haven't even started the reaction. One more thing. And I said this on another video a while ago. My ex-girlfriend, when I first met her, she didn't really know anything about basketball. We got on the topic, and then she mentioned LeBron James' name. I don't remember why, and along the lines of he's the best player in the league or the greatest player of all time, something, greatest player of all time. And I was like, I thought about it, I was like, she doesn't even watch basketball. I was like, who? I said LeBron James, the greatest player of all time. She's like, hell yeah. And I was like, tell me why. And she just looked at me. She's like, oh, I don't know. That's just what everybody on Twitter says. And I was like, it's time to educate you. And I educated her. Now she's whistling a different tune. All right, let's get into this reaction.
There have been countless dynastic teams which have reigned supreme throughout the course of NBA history, dating back to the earliest beginnings of the NBA in the 1950s and working through virtually every decade all the way up to modern history. During that time, teams have been built through the draft and by cultivating their talent or by adding pieces in free agency. However team building occurred in the past, that all came to an abrupt and declarative end on July 8th, 2010, when after weeks of speculation, LeBron James sat down in a Boys and Girls Club in Greenwich, Connecticut for a 75-minute special.
What?
Yes, you heard that correctly. The epic cringe fest hosted by Jim Gray lasted an impossible to believe 75 minutes. And nearly 30 minutes into that show, at 9:28 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, LeBron James lit a match that would burn the NBA to the ground.
Hold on. Forgive me if I'm wrong here. Now, I watched the decision. It was the day before my birthday. But during this whole 75-minute, and forgive me if I'm wrong. That's what I'm saying. I'm not 100% on this. But like during this whole feature, weren't they just like showing like highlights of like parts of his career or something like that? Like almost like a documentary style in between the conversation. Were they doing that or am I tripping? It was a long time ago. But that whole thing was just a clown show, man. Oh, but after all, by the way, we donated to charity. Yeah, after you broke those little kids' heart. If you wanted to donate to charity, you could just donate it to charity, man. You're from LeBron James. What are you talking about?
In this fall, I'm going to take my talents to South Beach.
For virtually the entire decade that would follow, a decade marked by player empowerment, mass player movement, collusion, and super team building that quite frankly destroyed the competitive balance of the entire sport. And it is important to note that a great team does not necessarily constitute a super team. We have seen countless great teams throughout NBA history, the earliest example of which produced the greatest dynasty ever, the 1960s Boston Celtics, who captured 11 of 13 NBA championships behind a plethora of Hall of Fame players such as Bill Russell, Bob Cousy, Tom Heinsohn, Sam Jones, and Casey Jones. Yes, make no mistake, the Celtics of this era were stacked, but every single one of these players were drafted by the Boston Celtics. This team was built and grown organically. The following decade would also produce a team that was super in appearance and is generally regarded as one of the greatest teams ever assembled.
No, he's right. They were organic. Who knows what some of these players are? Their name became their name because of all the championships they won. And they were great players, but who knows what these guys were capable of if they were the solo act on a team. You might be like, oh, that guy might not be a superstar on his own, but inside of this unit, he's great. I mean, that's how I look at Klay Thompson. Like, Klay Thompson, to me, you can't build a team around Klay Thompson as your number one option. He doesn't have the skill set. But inside the Warriors' offense and how they use him and capitalize on his ability, he's able to more or less be an all-star by today's standards. But that doesn't mean Klay Thompson is... You could just throw him on a team with bums and he'll put him on their back and get him into the playoffs. He's not that guy. He's not that guy. Right? All right.
1972 LA Lakers, who won an NBA record 69 games at the time, a record which stood for over 20 years until the 95-96 Bulls won 72. This team paired elite Hall of Fame players such as Jerry West, Elgin Baylor, and Will Chamberlain. But as with the Celtics team that preceded this one in the previous decade, this team was mostly drafted. Elgin Baylor and Jerry West were both drafted by the Lakers and played their entire careers there. And yes,
Let me just add, I was talking about Klay Thompson before the injuries. I know he's a shell of himself sometimes now.
They did add Wilt, but Chamberlain was 32 years old when he joined the Lakers and in the twilight of his career, as he averaged just 17 points per game in his 5 seasons with LA, compared with the first decade of his career in the league when he averaged 36 a night. He joined a...
Okay, I just want to also add about Wilt is that he did willingly take a much lesser role as far as scoring the basketball. There's a period in his career where he stopped scoring as much by choice. Throw that in there.
Lakers team that had famously failed time and time again to get it done, losing 8 finals appearances. The team that finally got over the hump in 1972 was a collection of older players late in their careers, a very far cry from the collusion-generated pairings of elite players in their primes we would see years later. The 80s would yield 2 dynastic and loaded teams in the Boston Celtics and LA Lakers. The heart of the Celtics team was its 3-headed front court monster, consisting of Hall of Famers Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, and Robert Parrish. Bird and McHale were both drafted by Boston, and they played their entire careers with the Celtics. While Parrish did come to Boston in 1980 via free agency after 4 years with Golden State, he was joining Larry Bird, who was just in his 2nd season at the time, and Kevin McHale, who was a rookie. This team was great, this team was dynastic, but it was not super. Their primary foe in this era was the juggernaut Lakers, with an embarrassment of riches, boasting arguably 2 top 5 players of all time in Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Magic Johnson. And Kareem was not drafted by the Lakers. Kareem was drafted by small market Milwaukee, was arguably the best player in the NBA at the time, and had won multiple league MVPs with the team that had drafted him when he decided to jump ship to LA in his late 20s. Does this sound familiar? But Kareem didn't join up with Magic Johnson when Magic was in his prime. Magic wasn't making perennial All-NBA first teams when Kareem decided to go around his organization's back and circumvent rules to collude and recruit other elite All-Stars to join up there. No, Kareem joined a Lakers team in 1975 that was just 30-52 the year before. And in that 1975-76 season, Kareem won the league MVP in his first year with the Lakers, while Magic Johnson was still in high school. Kareem would win the league MVP again the following season, while lifting the Lakers to the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. Magic, meanwhile, still in high school. Then in 1979, 4 years after Kareem joined the Lakers, LA would draft Magic Johnson. Then in 1982-83, they drafted the 3rd piece of their Hall of Fame triumvirate in James Worthy, who would also play his entire career with the Lakers. A far cry from the cowardly ass-shaking and team-building we would see decades later. Into the 90s, and Michael Jordan would emerge as the greatest force of nature in the modern era, producing 6 consecutive championships throughout the decade in years that he started and played a full season. But this team was a far cry from a super team. The first 3 titles in 91-93 had only 2 All-Stars on the team in Jordan and Pippen, both drafted by the Bulls. And after a year and a half in baseball retirement, Jordan would come back to the NBA and win 3 more titles. This team would add Dennis Rodman, who, yes, would go on to eventually make the Hall of Fame, leading some people to very incorrectly designate this team a super team. For starters, Jordan and Pippen were, again, both drafted by the Bulls. But most importantly, Dennis Rodman was 34 years old when he joined Chicago. Dennis Rodman never sniffed an All-Star team while he was playing with Chicago. Dennis Rodman averaged 5 points per game in his 3-year run with Chicago. Despite how desperately a certain sect of delusional fans want to paint this into some super pairing,
I've been saying it a long time. Like, man, that Chicago Bulls team was no super team. Dennis Rodman did not make them a super team. Yes, Dennis Rodman gets headlines and popularity for other reasons and his great rebounding and theatrics, and his defense was great and his rebounding was great, even at 34 years old. But listen, man, he wasn't no damn superstar, bro. Or all-star. Anyway,
they would be gravely mistaken. And the 2000s would see the rise of two dynastic teams, or should I say dynastic players, as Kobe Bryant and Tim Duncan would combine to win 10 championships, 5 each, during a 15-year span from 1999 to 2014, and each would do it while wearing one jersey for their entire careers. But while with the same franchise, both Bryant and Duncan would win titles with a vastly different assortment of cast and crew. Tim Duncan would do it playing alongside and winning titles with some combination of 4 different expected Hall of Famers throughout his 19-year career that included David Robinson, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, and Kawhi Leonard, all of which, every single one, were drafted by the Spurs, as was Duncan himself.
But even drafted or not, none of those Spurs teams were super teams. Drafted or not, not a single Spurs team was a super team, man.
Kobe Bryant, meanwhile, would win 5 titles in his career, playing with only one other Hall of Famer for 2 different stints as a Laker to capture all 5 of his rings. First and most famously was Shaquille O'Neal. The two would dominate the NBA like few teams ever have, becoming just the 3rd team to ever win 3 consecutive titles, and doing it with just those 2 All-Stars. And after years of playing with some of the worst collection of talent in the sport, the Lakers would acquire Pau Gasol, who was in his 7th year at the time with the Memphis Grizzlies. In those 7 seasons, Gasol had made 1 All-Star appearance, 0 All-NBA teams, and won 0 playoff games to that point in his career. As soon as the acquisition was made, Kobe would go to 3 more consecutive finals and win back-to-back championships with Gasol, the lone All-Star and only Hall of Famer other than Bryant on those rosters. But something else important would happen in the summer before the season when the Lakers acquired Pau Gasol in 2007.
Man, I get people sit here and try to tell me Lamar Odom made that a super team or Ron Artest made that a super team. I'm like, no. Lakers team was not a super team. And Kobe made Pau a lot better, and Pau made the Lakers a lot better.
Boston Celtics would trade for Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen to pair them alongside existing All-Star Paul Pierce to create the Boston Big Three, in a move that many feel kick-started the NBA Super Team era. But taking a closer look at the context will reveal a different story altogether, as all 3 of these players were already in their 30s at the time they teamed up, and they had all played a minimum of 10 seasons in the NBA. In the 2 seasons preceding the Big Three team up in Boston, not a single one of these players made All-NBA first or second team, and not a single one of these 3 players finished anywhere near the top 5 in league end MVP voting. None of these 3 were considered to be elite players at this stage of their careers. And while this team up would generate 1 title, they would fall the next.
Trying to think about Kevin Garnett. I think KG was still considered an elite player. And I could be wrong, but he might have just been on the top side of his prime and maybe starting to come down. I could be wrong, but I think KG was still more or less considered an elite player. Yeah.
Next 2 seasons in the playoffs, while that guy in LA with the one fringe all-star would capture back-to-back championships. And as Kobe Bryant was ruling the NBA, the analytics-obsessed losers, the media, was giving LeBron James back-to-back league MVPs, while his Cavaliers, with the best record in the NBA in back-to-back seasons, were flaming out in the playoffs. After failing to win in his first 7 years with the Cavaliers, and in a fit of sheer desperation, based on the realization he could never win the way mostly every other all-time great had, LeBron panicked. He reached out to his buddy in Miami, and the two of them, behind their organization's backs, colluded, along with then 5-time consecutive All-Star Chris Bosh, to join forces in Miami. LeBron would hit that podium in the Boys and Girls Club in Connecticut on July 8th, and literally 1 day later, these 3 cowards would rise up out of the ground together during a pyrotechnics concert to officially kickstart the era of the super team. The 3 of these players were in the absolute hearts of their primes when contrasted with the Boston Big Three, as they were all in their mid to late 20s and all entering their 8th seasons. Laughable, pathetic, and humiliating for their legacies, but historical NBA precedent be damned. LeBron needed to steal some cheap rings. In the 2 seasons prior to this unholy alliance, LeBron James and Dwayne Wade were both first-team All-NBA, and both of them finished top 5 in MVP voting in those 2 previous years. Wade, of course, was just a few years removed from winning a championship and finals MVP. These were the 2 best players in the conference and 2 of the 3 best players in the NBA in their primes, deciding to come together from different teams. This had never happened before, but that wasn't enough. Chris Bosh, who had career averages at the time of 20 points and 10 rebounds per game, who had made 5 straight All-Star teams and an All-NBA second team in 2007, also came along for the ride. Despite this team hilariously somehow failing to win the championship in 2 of their 4 years together, the Heat were, unsurprisingly, able to win the title twice. But once that team was showing signs of decline, rather than stick it out with his second team, LeBron decided to jump ship back to his first team. But it wasn't to fulfill some pledge of responsibility to his hometown team that drafted him and who he stabbed in the back 4 years earlier. No, it was to team up with number 1 overall pick from 2011, Kyrie Irving, who in his first 3 seasons in the NBA was averaging 21 points, 6 assists, and 4 rebounds per game while making 2 All-Star teams. The Cavs would then trade the number 1 overall pick from that year, Andrew Wiggins, for a player in Kevin Love, who was undoubtedly a top 10 player in the NBA at that time. Yes. At just 25 years of age, Kevin Love, who was in his 6th season, had made an All-Star team 3 times and had just become the first player ever to that point in post-merger modern NBA history to average 26 points, 12 rebounds, and 4 assists in a season. The year prior to joining forces on LeBron's second super team, Love was also top 3 in many advanced metrics, such as PER, value over replacement, and he finished 2nd in box plus minus behind only league MVP Kevin Durant.
Pause. I recently put out a video. You can go check it out in the LeBron James playlist called LeBron James, the Sacrificial Lambs, where I basically talk about, in that video, I talk about how great, how elite Kevin Love was. And now through revisionist history by these bronzexuals, they are trying to erase Kevin Love, as make it seem like he wasn't an all-star, make it sound like he wasn't a superstar, make it sound like he wasn't one of the better players in the league. And they're trying to use that and say that that Cavaliers team wasn't a super team. And I had to remind them of what Kevin Love was doing. He was just getting into his prime, the beginning of his prime, and he sacrificed it all to be the sacrificial lamb to the LeBron James super team. And now people don't even acknowledge him. Go watch the video. Go watch the video.
Love was named second team All-NBA in 2 of his last 3 years with Minnesota before making the super team jump. This team was so impossibly loaded that when healthy and playing together, they beat a 73-9 Golden State Warriors team that had the best regular season record in NBA history. But not to worry, the Warriors, seeing this super team, felt emboldened to build their own. And Kevin Durant, who like LeBron James years earlier, represented a very talented individual who was unable to win anything on his own. And if LeBron could do it, why not Durant? On July 7th, 2016, 5 years and 364 days after that fateful night in Greenwich, Connecticut, Kevin Durant officially signed with the Golden State Warriors. And the era of the super team was popping at this point. You get a super team. You get a super team. In all, the Cavaliers and Warriors would meet in 4 consecutive NBA Finals during the decade from the decision in 2010 to 2020. While they weren't all super teams, we would see an unprecedented amount of player movement and team-ups, from the collusion of Paul George and Kawhi Leonard to make their way to the Clippers, to James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Durant's pairing in Brooklyn, and LeBron colluding with his clutch sports brother Anthony Davis to force his way to the Lakers. The decade of the 2010s was the most sickening and non-competitive decade in the sport's history. Yet revisionists and teenagers with no understanding or comprehension of basketball history will pontificate about the level of competition in this era, which is as hilarious as it is ignorant. It is still yet to be seen where we will go from here, and the future for competitive balance and the possible shift away from the era of the super team does look bright. But there is simply no denying what we saw in the decade of the 2010s that began with LeBron's decision was something we have never seen before and hopefully will never see again.
I would like to give a shout out to Kawhi Leonard, who seemed like the super team destroyer when he took down the Miami Heat. That forced them to break up. And then he took down the Golden State Warriors when he went to Toronto. Though Kevin Durant did not play in those finals, and I'm sure if Kevin Durant played in those finals, Warriors would have beat the Toronto Raptors easily. Let's just be real. So, with that being said, one thing I just want to say, shout out to Scap Attack again. 100% all facts, man. People, man, it's sick. It's sick how these bronzexuals try to revise history, man. But one thing I found interesting, if y'all remember when the decision went down, right? And I recently had a small conversation, if you want to call it that, with somebody in the comment section of a different video about this. When the decision happened, y'all remember the overall consensus, what the outcry was from even these major media personalities, what everybody was saying publicly, on interviews, on their shows, on social media. Oh, LeBron, they're basically saying, like the video said, LeBron James is a coward, he ran to Miami, he couldn't get it done. The Cavaliers were favorited either to win the championship or favorited in their conference, and they couldn't even make it to the finals. No excuses. No excuses. No excuses. That was what everybody was saying. Dwayne Wade already won a championship. He's going to Dwayne Wade's team to learn how to play. No matter what, no matter how many championships they win, these championships don't mean nearly as much as he would have, as if, for LeBron James, had he done it in Cleveland or without making a super team. That's what people were saying. It doesn't matter. I don't care how many championships they win. It won't amount to Michael Jordan. It won't amount to Kobe Bryant. It won't amount because we look at this. They're monopolizing the league. And not only did they not deliver on not one, not two, not 3, not 4. Not only did I deliver on that, they only won 2 out of 4. Despite trying to run the table and put together an unmatched level of talent that no other team in the league had. Two top 5 players and Chris Bosh, who was top 10 to top 15, leading that Toronto Raptors team as a playoff contending team, averaging over 20 points and almost 10 rebounds. All-star? Really? And then y'all go and beef up the bench with players like Birdman and Ray Allen, and I think Shane Battier was on that squad, if I'm not mistaken. And other players. Solid role players too. And now all of a sudden, that's what everybody was saying. And rightfully so. And all these guys were in their prime. I guess all these guys were in their 20s. Those guys were in their prime. Hadn't even been in the league 10 years yet. And you already come to the conclusion that you want to build a super team and try to run a table. Crazy to me. But that was the general consensus. That was the media narrative at the time. And then, despite underachieving for the team that they had, as beefed up as they were, underachieving, why have whoever was saying that at the time, what changed for them to forget all that ever happened and forget everything they said? What prompted that change of heart for them not to say that anymore? You would have swore, based on today's atmosphere, that none of that decision stuff ever happened and nobody had that opinion based on how people are talking now. For me, if that's how I thought back then, that's how I felt in the moment, nothing has changed. History didn't change. History was written.
Here's an answer from TheViaClub.com. The rim is the outer edge of a wheel.
What? Why is Siri even talking? I have her disabled. I hate when that happens. Anyway, so yeah, what has changed? They really out here acting like these fools wasn't trying to run the table every single year with these super teams. And they really trying to act like none of these teams were super teams all of a sudden. I remember Kendrick Perkins was on ESPN First Take like 2 years ago or something, like 1 or 2 years ago, talking about that. What did he say? That Cavalier team with no super team? That wasn't no damn super team. However he be talking, I was like, what? Man, this is sad. This is sad. Wasn't no super team. Miami Heat wasn't no super team. Get out my face, man. It's sickening, man. It's sickening. I'm glad we got people like Scap Attack that's building a large audience, getting the views out there. It's not about the numbers. It's about getting the information out to the masses to get the truth put out there. The truth. And with all that being said, I still got LeBron James in my top 5. That ain't hate. It's crazy to me, man. Yo, everybody, man. Larry Bird fans, you welcome here. Kobe fans, Jordan fans, all the fans, you welcome here. And if you are a fan of the truth, and if you are a fan of justice, and if you are a fan of going against the grain of these media norms and this misinformation and all this damn lying and cap and against the agenda and how these fools out here making up lies for LeBron James, these fools out here trying to tear down other greats, If you against all that BS and you are a fan of truth, a warrior of truth, then you have a home here. You have a home here. We try to be as unbiased. I try to be as unbiased as possible with the stuff I put out. And most of the people here too, from what I've seen. So, you got a home here. Rally the troops, baby. Rally the troops. You know more people who think like us, even people that don't think like us. It's not about being around people that always think like you, right? It's good to have disagreements, talks, discussions, debates. Bring them all in. Maybe we can share and shed light on those that are confused or misinformed, that don't necessarily think like us on some level. Not saying we're all, in a hive mind, like we all have the same opinions, but generally this is how we feel about this subject, right? When it comes to the misinformation in the world of the NBA. So you got people that think like us, bring them in. If you find people that you trying to persuade and enlighten them, bring them on down too. Bring them on down. Because we fighting against a cult. That clutch sports cult. Sickening, man. And listen, I've been putting out a lot of LeBron James content lately regarding putting the actual truth out there. And I've been doing that on this channel before I came in contact with Scap Attack. But now that I see Scap Attack out here, I'm watching all his stuff, or the majority of his stuff, especially LeBron James stuff, because it's definitely adding fuel to my fire with this situation. Now that I see, a larger platform pushing against the narratives, I love to see it. I love to see it because I'm about the truth, man. Even if the truth is against my favorite player, I don't care, man. I don't care. The truth is the truth. There's no perfect player out there, but bronzexuals will lead you to believe that this guy is the most perfect thing since sliced bread. I don't know where that saying came from, like since sliced bread, but sliced bread is amazing, is it not? Hi. Anyway, I've gone on too long. We're already 37 minutes almost into this video. I apologize. I just get so into this and I start ranting and I don't know. Appreciate y'all for real. Drop a comment in that comment section. Like, subscribe as well. Hit the bell. Stay notified. Go check out our LeBron James playlist for more truth. And I'll catch y'all on the next one. We out, baby.